Aprendimos a quererte desde la histórica altura donde el sol de tu bravura le puso cerco a la muerte.
Aquí se queda la clara, la entrañable transparencia de tu querida presencia, comandante Che Guevara.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Assalamu alaikum. Lafia. Peace to my gods and earths. Uhuru, free the land. Sakpase. Chihatamo. Que pasa? What's up? What's going on, family? Welcome to another episode of Grunt TV. I'm your host, Malik Shabazz. And don't forget, before I go any further, mash that like button and hit and make sure that you share. Alright? Well, I appreciate everybody that's been watching so far. The last episode that I did, I got a lot of views on it. On Dr. Boyce Watkins and Capitalist Lies. I did forget something really important on that particular episode, so I just want to bring it up before I go into the episode for today's topic. We do recall that Dr. Boyce Watkins, his father, was a police officer. And he said that he's against defunding the police because we need police. And then he spouted about the murders in Chicago, Philly, and New York, right? But you know one thing? How many of those murders were committed by the police? I'm just saying. You know, you want to put all that stuff on the black community, but in reality, and it's not to say that crime doesn't go on. I know this. I'm trying to, hide that fact. Yeah, brothers be killing brothers, we cutting each other up, we shooting each other over nonsense. Yes, I know that goes on. Okay? But again, when you analyze anything in this society, any phenomenon, you have to analyze it within the context of racism and white supremacy. So, again, we don't need police. We need a new system. And once you get a new system, all that crime will go down. You know? Because most of the crime that's being committed in America is the economic crimes. Okay? And most of the people that are in prison are there for non-violent crimes. Okay? On that note. Out there. Now, this particular segment is about Representative Khanna out of California, who's nothing but an imperialist pig. They fly under the cover of being progressives. Ain't nothing progressive about him, okay? So now, Nicaragua, for those who are following geopolitics, Nicaragua just had an election, and Daniel Ortega, one of the leaders of the Sandinista movement, was elected the president. And now he comes on and he's spouting nonsense about that the elections were not fair and that he jailed journalists and this and that. Okay, first of all, he's talking about jailing journalists. What about Julian Assange? Huh? What about Julian Assange? You think America does? In fact, he's not even an American citizen. He's an Australian citizen. And he exposed America's war crimes, and now he was locked up. He was confined to the Ecuadorian embassy for a couple of years, and then they went in there, which was illegal because that's sovereign territory. But anyway, they went in there, they snatched his ass up, and now he's in Belmarsh prison, and he's been sitting there. You know, even all the evidence showing that the CIA had plot to kill him. The number one key witness, recanted his testimony, saying that he lied. He was told to lie, and he's still sitting there. So don't talk to me about jailing journalists, okay? Don't talk to me about jailing journalists, because the journalists that he's probably jailing are probably CIA implants, you know, or people who are working with the CIA. or with the elites in Nicaragua and America. So that's that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm not even gonna speak for him. I'm gonna let him speak, and then I'm gonna show you how he's lying. Number one, and number two, I'm gonna give, and then I'm gonna show you, give you a little historical context about what's going on in Nicaragua. So again, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna switch the camera again. I apologize for me moving the camera back and forth, but you know, I'm going to. All right, here we go. All right. Now let's listen to him.
Said. Some people ask why you voted to impose sanctions on Nicaragua, and I would say that this is kind of a larger question, which I think that, Jeff Sachs, friend of the show, though he's not been on, but this is your invitation, Jeff Sachs. Brilliant person, friend of Bernie Sanders, right? It was part of his campaign. He and Mark Weisbrot have written about the way that sanctions harm the civilian population. They don't actually harm the government. I mean, we've seen this in the cases of Cuba still standing, Castro still there. Is it not time for progressives and the progressive position to be anti-sanctions? Because kind of beyond what you think of those governments, whether or not you like them or not, it doesn't harm those governments. The government stays standing, and it's the civilians who die, who don't have access to medicine, who don't have access to life-saving medicine, to food. It just seems like this is like old school Reagan, or even, going back further, we could go back to Monroe Doctrine. This is not where we should be focusing our priorities now.
Well, Katie, I agree with you that some of the sanctions have been poorly designed. In fact, I worked with Mark Weisbrot on Venezuela, some of the sanctions there, to make sure that they're not hurting the poorest people in Venezuela. And I would call on the State Department to implement sanctions in a way that goes after the regime in Nicaragua that has undoubtedly committed huge human rights abuses and is not a ethical actor, and not to design it in a way that's going to deprive people of medicine and deprive people of food. I believe you can structure.
First of all, she did not say that the sanctions were poorly designed. He's saying that, just for the record.
Sanctions in that way. I mean, even the left, even though, look, I disagree with the BDS movement, as you know, I don't think that that's a correct one, but they're advocating sanctions. So it's not like the left doesn't believe in sanctions as well. I think the question is, how do you target the sanctions?
Boycott, divest, sanction movement. Why are we okay with that? Because Israel. I know why. Because we're not really starving Israel, right? It's mostly a cultural boycott, and because we fund them so much. So this would be like if we really funded Ortega's government and then we impose sanctions.
I think we should have a sense of, you can have sanctions in ways that are targeted, that are going after people who are abusing power in Nicaragua's case, but ones that don't get at poor people and don't hurt poor people. And I think involve Mark Weisbrot, involve Jeffrey Sachs in how we better target sanctions. But I do think that it's important for us to speak consistently against the human rights violations in Nicaragua. Even those who may oppose the sanctions, I think that the left needs to be, in my opinion, very clear in saying, look, Ortega, some of the actions there are awful, and that they're human rights violations, that they should be condemned. And we shouldn't have a view that, it's not that bad. My view is that there are some pretty serious human rights violations. I
mean, Kerry just shook hands with Mohammed bin Salman, right? I mean, look what happened. We have an entire report showing that Khashoggi was indeed chopped up at the behest of the Saudi kingdom, and yet what was Biden's response to that?
Well, look, I think we should have much more sanctions on MBS, and I don't think the administration has been strong enough on Yemen. I don't think they've been strong enough on holding MBS accountable. So I would say you should have sanctions in terms of Khashoggi. I mean, that would be another example. If someone said, would you support sanctions on MBS, support it in in Nicaragua.
Do you have a comment on Khanna's comment?
First of all, he's being a flagrant hypocrite. So he says he opposes BDS on Israel, but he supports sanctions on Nicaragua because he says they've committed human rights abuses. Are you going to tell me that Israel, which has been occupying for decades an entire population against their will, no Palestinian voted for Israel to occupy them, steal their land, steal their homes, steal their water, kill their children? Israel has committed.
Okay, there you have, really quick, I'm going to shift the camera back because then I'm going to go back to the, so now, there you have it from Aaron Mate from the Gray Zone. Okay, again, he's not a progressive, and he's not nothing, and he's not part of the left. I don't know what left they talking about when they talk about they're part of the left. I don't know what the fuck they talking about, but there ain't no left. If you Che Guevara and Fidel Castro, that's the left, okay? I can name a lot more. Malcolm X, that's the left. Okay? But let me show you the hypocrisy and the reason why he's spewing this imperialist propaganda. There was an article that was written by a publication called Brick House. And it states, I'm going to read it to you. Despite claiming to divest, Khanna's wife held onto some defense stocks. In December 2020, Ritu Khanna, the wife of Representative Khanna, divested from several weapons companies after Sludge published an article revealing that her fortune included defense contractor stocks worth as much as $376,000. Duh. So, of course, he's going to spew this imperialist propaganda. Because he wants to he wants to make money. He's an imperialist, and he's spewing imperialist propaganda. You know, so for all those who think that the Democrats are going to do anything for you, in fact, right now California has a Democratic governor and basically a Democratic oh my God, I couldn't get it. Anyway, it's run by Democrats. City council, right? And they got hundreds of people living under bridges. So don't ever think that they're gonna do anything for you, because like I said, they run cover. They try to pass themselves off as being progressives, you know, and Democratic and all that stuff, but they not. Okay? And so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to give you a little historical context about what's going on in Nicaragua and why this is going on. Because he's spouting, saying, he's saying that there's been human rights abuses. Okay, like what? Like anybody can just get on TV and spout anything without even, and the thing is, actually, Katie Halper, she should have challenged him on that. He said, okay, what? She should have asked him, what exactly human rights are being violated? What? Explain to us. And she didn't do that. I don't know why she didn't do that, but she didn't do that. But I'm doing it. Okay? Because one thing about this country is that people, they run, like I said, they run, try to say they for the people, but they're not for the people. They're nothing but for the people. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to give you some historical context about what's going on in Nicaragua.
On October the 25th, 1983, the United States invaded Grenada. It was, some believe, a forerunner to a much bigger invasion of Nicaragua. Imagine for a moment that you and your family live in one of the poorest regions of the world, Central America. often called the backyard of the United States. It's likely your home is in the countryside, a one-room shack in which there's no lavatory, no electricity, no clean drinking water. And imagine that at least 2 or 3 times in your life you watch helpless as a brother or sister or a small son or daughter falls ill with something simple and preventable, like diarrhea or measles, and dies. In your community there's hardly anyone who can read or write except the priest and the moneylender. If you're lucky, you may get a few months' work picking cotton or cutting cane for 40 pence a day from dawn to dusk. And perhaps you'll wonder why your labor produces luxury goods and food for export to self-sufficient countries like the United States and Britain, while you and your family are permanently hungry. But if you wonder aloud about this, you put yourself at great risk, and you may even end up on a rubbish tip, murdered. That is what happens in the small nations of Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. Until 1979, it also happened in Nicaragua. Then almost all the people of Nicaragua rose up against a tyrant called Somoza, whose family had been in power for more than 40 years, put there by the United States Marines. That uprising cost 50,000 lives, almost as many as died for America in Vietnam, but out of a population of less than 3 million people. This film is about the people of Nicaragua and their unique struggle to end a cycle of poverty and humiliation. It is also about a threat, which according to President Reagan, this tiny country presents to the most powerful and richest nation on earth.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bien.
This threat, says Reagan, is communist penetration in Central America, but the real threat is this. Children once denied education under the Somozas now have the same right to school as do children in Britain. This botany class did not exist while Somoza was in power, when even the youngest children labored in the fields. In the past 4 years, 2,500 new schools have been built. And this is the threat. These middle-aged peasant women can read and write for the first time in their lives. In the past 4 years, illiteracy has been cut to less than 10% of the population. And this is the threat. Polio has been wiped out. Infant mortality has been cut by 1/3. Serious malnutrition has been dramatically reduced. A national health service has been established in spite of pitifully meager resources. And this is the threat. Open roads, freedom of movement. In a region of turmoil, there's no curfew, no menace from within. It is ironic that Nicaragua is one of the few countries in Latin America where the United States ambassador is able to stroll in safety through the streets.
¡Patria libre!
So, there you have it. The threat is that they're teaching their people to read. They're teaching the children to read. They're opening clinics. In fact, they opened up, they built 2,500 schools. And here in America, they're actually closing down schools and building prisons. So when this Khanna, this imperialist, flying under the cover of progressive, comes on TV and tells you this nonsense about Nicaragua's government committing human rights violations, it's all a bunch of bullshit. Because again, like I said, I showed you before, his wife got outed out, so she had to kind of get out of, find a way to get, I mean, she didn't really get out of it. She found some way, they find some way to get around this stuff, but she had money in defense stocks, so that means that she's good with war. So let me check out my notes before I go any further. So yes, again, don't believe none of these people when they tell you this nonsense, okay? Again, do your own research. I'm hoping that little these little videos that I do can probably help you in that endeavor. You know, point you in the right direction. Just in case you're wondering, you can watch this documentary. It's called Nicaragua and the Contras by John Pilger. He's a famous filmmaker and activist. He's been around for a long, long time. He's got a lot of videos online. You should definitely check him out. You know, and he's still around now. So again, you know, don't believe the imperialists and do your own research, because the reality is that America is the empire, and she doesn't want anybody challenging her dominance, which is really is futile because it's already happening. It's already happening. So we gotta do our own research, and we have to not be fooled by these fake ass politicians, you know, coming on TV talking about human rights. What about all the human rights violations here in America? Huh? What do you call when the police runs up on somebody and shoots them, you know, 16 times, 28 times, chokes you to death? You know, what do you call that? You know, human rights violations. And the greatest human rights violator is America. Dropping bombs on children, elders, men and women and children, all that. You know, destroying families and homes. And, you know, a lot of people, most people don't think about is that when another country is being attacked, let's say, you know, like Nicaragua, you know, they had to fight the Contras because Reagan basically, for those who don't know, you should check it out, how Reagan basically sold drugs in LA to get guns, to arm the Contras, to overthrow the Sandinista government. What they don't tell you is that those on the Sandinista side, the ones that get killed, and the ones that get killed by the bombs and everything, you know who they're killing? They're killing poets, they're killing musicians, they're killing artists, they're killing scientists, they're killing mathematicians, they're killing architects, they're killing teachers, they're killing professors. Because all those people that are being murdered, you know, who knows what they would be, had that been for the war and them America dropping bombs on them, who knows what they would have did with their lives. So they lost all of that. Okay? They lost all of that. So Khanna is an imperialist pig, spewing imperialist propaganda. And this whole thing is connected all over. So let's just, let's be wise. Let's fight imperialism, capitalism, white supremacy. And let's work together in unity so we can create a better world. And that's all that we want. Okay? So again, human rights, you know, and like Aaron Mate pointed out to him, he's a hypocrite. He's a fucking hypocrite. So on that note, I'll leave you with some
Tu mano gloriosa y fuerte sobre la historia dispara cuando todo Santa Clara se despierta.